So, welcome to this panel. And let me begin by briefly introducing our panelists. You have already listened to Samantha Caccamo. She holds a BA in journalism from Pepperdine University and an executive MBA from Università della Svizzera Italiana. And she has extensive experience working in the private and social sector. She is the founder and CEO of social business Earth, whose mission is to end extreme poverty and create equal opportunities for all through the creation of sustainable business model. For many years, she has dedicated her work to supporting social business startups. Samantha is also an expert on migration and integration and has managed a number of EU-funded projects in support of asylum seekers and refugees. We are also pleased to have with us Luciana Delle Donne. After a 20-year career in the world of finance, in 2006, she decided to devote herself to the commitment of making a difference in people's lives, conveying a feeling of confidence and enthusiasm in those who experience hardship and social disadvantage. With this vision, she gave birth to the social enterprise Made in Carcere, where sustainable artifacts are made by women who are inmates and on the margins of society. The products are made with recycled fabrics. In fact, you are wearing a product by Made in Carcere on your feet right now. Beautiful. Another very welcome and distinguished guest on our panel is Angelica Morrone. In her career, she worked for important international investment companies, co-founded her own asset management company, and more importantly for us, at some point in her life, became fascinated by the emerging startup scene and the innovative solutions being developed by young entrepreneurs. And today she has 20 years experience as an angel investor, having interacted with hundreds of investor and social entrepreneurs or aspiring entrepreneurs, also as a mentor, sharing her knowledge and expertise to help them navigate the complex and often challenging world of startup funding and growth. So she certainly has deep knowledge on what it takes to make startups and investments succeed. Coming now to the only man on the panel other than the moderator, I'm pleased to also welcome Dr. Paulo Gonçalves, Professor of Manager and Social Entrepreneurship at USI, Università della Svizzera Italiana. His research combines system dynamics simulation, behavioral experiments, and econometrics to understand how managers make decisions in humanitarian settings. Currently, he has been developing supply chain experiments to understand and improve managerial decisions in humanitarian operations. Paulo is also a social entrepreneur and was part of the Swiss Legs social enterprise for a number of years. Right, so now I would like to start by recalling what we all know. Social entrepreneurs generate wide social and environmental impact, promoting leading-edge innovative models and contributing to the achievement of sustainable development goals. But they also encounter several challenges and their startup phase, particularly in the early stage, that they need to overcome to launch their product or service and later possibly reach economies of scale. Of course, some of the challenges are more contextual, for example, related to a specific region where the startup is located and initially operates, and others are more universal in nature. So let's try to analyze a few of these challenges and possible solutions, asking our distinguished panelists to share their expertise. And maybe it is a good idea to start with the more general challenges. I think that an important one is the lack of business strategy that startups often have, which is also linked with a subsequent difficulty in accessing funds. In addition, not all social enterprises measure their social impact, and this also affects their long-term sustainability. So let's start an initial round of reflections on this aspect. Samantha, maybe do you want to start with that?
Absolutely, thank you, Massimiliano. Yes, definitely business strategy is one of the main challenges for some social enterprises who are often lacking business strategy, and this leads oftentimes to non-competitive products. So they tend to maybe start focusing largely on the social needs and not enough on the development of the actual product or service that they offer. And this, of course, also hinders the development of a competitive advantage. And let's not forget that social businesses must compete with commercial enterprises. So they have to have strategic thinking. They have to have the ability to develop and maintain a vision, a mental model for the overall business. Key relationships must be nurtured with the stakeholders. They need to understand the context, how the performance works. They need to formulate an integrated plan to guide them through their actions, and also to understand functional policies to achieve their objectives. And of course, they have to be able to anticipate challenges that will come towards them, towards their enterprise. They need to somehow foresee them before they actually hit their social business. So this is very challenging, and they need to understand the changes that their social business makes, both internally and externally. So in addition, another issue that often we see in social enterprises is the fact that they start without any business background. So they entirely, out of their goodwill, out of their good intentions, they want to solve a problem, or social or environmental, and they have no management expertise. They have not studied business. So this is very important. I am one of them. Because when I started Social Business Earth, I had a BA in communications and journalism, and I started it because I really wanted to empower social entrepreneurs. But then I said, okay, I better go back to school. And so I did. And I got my executive MBA at USI, and Paulo was actually teaching statistics to me. So sometimes the poor strategy argument can lead to the challenge of fundraising. So the literature tells us that facing financial challenges might actually be the result of facing a strategy deficiency, not a financial deficiency. So it's important to ensure that in the team there is, of course, a creative mind, but there's also someone who is able to manage the business. With regards to measuring impact, this is fundamental both for the enterprise itself, so internally, and in its engagement with external stakeholders, including investors. So it's important to validate the theory of change, which is essentially answering these questions: who will be impacted, how, and over what period of time. So of course you need to include measurements, you need to have indicators to measure the outcomes, and verify this theory. There are actually 3 dimensions to impact that I would like to mention. One is breadth, one is depth, and the other is durability. Breadth is measured in terms of the sheer number or the percentage of customers or beneficiaries. Then there's depth, which is measured in terms of the magnitude of the impact on each customer or beneficiary. So this could be like, for example, the increase in income of beneficiaries, or how the social business improves the health of the beneficiaries, how it improves the literacy of the beneficiaries, or a different measure which is appropriate to the nature of the intervention. And then, of course, there is durability, which has to do whether the change is going to be long-lasting or not. And durability is the most important, because unless the change sticks, unless the change lasts over time, the whole project should be considered a failure. Ensuring durability requires that a social enterprise monitor impact over several months or more, and then ensure that the improvement is actually sustained. So oftentimes, the social enterprises focus on breadth, on the numbers, how many people am I reaching, how many beneficiaries in the communities, and so on. But this is an oversight, and it's detrimental to their social mission. So the social enterprise should always choose investors who share their goals, who are interested in their long-term impact. So that's it for me.
Thank you. Thank you for this very comprehensive answer.
Thank you.
Maybe, I don't know if somebody else wants just to add a few thoughts on this very extensive answer from Samantha.
Samantha, I actually really enjoyed when you said that sometimes the lack of funding or the lack of success of startup is more dependent on a strategy deficiency rather than a financial deficiency. And I agree with you, mostly because when people come to investors, they always ask for money, and the money is usually used to cover deficiencies. Yes. So it is kind of a catch-22. It is difficult for startups. I'm not saying that it's easy, but having some of the competencies that go with good management and good governance go a long way with investors as well. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So,
thank you.
Thank you.
If I can add to that.
Yes.
I mean, I really appreciate this focus on durability. And I think that this aspect of, trying to focus on breadth, what's the impact, or even depth, scope, and different things, you're trying to do too many things at the same time. And this lack of focus typically creates problems. So, I think durability is an important aspect. I would actually characterize it as if you have the right processes, right, so you can actually achieve that durability over time. I'll leave it at that.
Good point.
Thank you. Thank you for these reflections. Now, it is well known that the traditional support mechanisms, such as bank or financial institutions, is quite scarce for social enterprises compared to commercial enterprise. This is quite evident in most of the countries, as existing literature suggests. Due to the fundamental misconception that socially driven organizations are not profitable and there is more risk involved in getting back the investment, social entrepreneurs often struggle to accumulate the required startup capital. Often they invest their own savings to tackle social problems. I'd like to ask the panelists representing the impact investing sector, Angelica, if she can share with us some thoughts on the different funding solutions that are out there for social businesses in Switzerland and Europe, and what you regard as an efficient funding strategy. Of course, it will be different for each startup, but if you can share some good practices in this regard that social entrepreneurs can benefit from, it would be great. And of course, after Angelica, the other panelists can, of course, also contribute.
Thank you, Massimiliano. So this is really something that is very dear to my heart, as everybody can understand. I wanted to have a quick introduction in saying that many years ago, or up until about 10 years ago, there was a clear difference between profitable companies and non-profit companies, between the unicorns and the social enterprises, between the ones who made money and the ones who did good. And how did everybody work together? It worked in such a way that the people who made the money, the companies that made the money, then made donations to the companies who didn't make money but did a lot of good, therefore somewhat achieving an equilibrium. It was a fickle and fake equilibrium, and we have now learned that that is no longer the case. We are having the largest shift in generational approach to investing that we've ever seen in our lives. As compared to generation, I'm not talking about boomers because I don't see any boomers here, so we go straight to Generation Z. Generation X, are considered the old way of doing things. But the millennials and Generation Z want to see things in a different way. They want to invest alongside their values. And they want to know that whatever they're investing also makes money. Otherwise, it wouldn't be an investment, it would be a donation. So what happens? It happened that until now, as Samantha correctly pointed out, most of the managerial competencies were reserved to profitable and profit organizations. Most of the fundraising strategies and the value-driven or the impact projects were left with non-profit. But both of them were lacking something incredibly important. So the shift that is happening now is actually bringing a mix of the two. So as we were saying, and as Paulo really pointed out with the processes, is we need managerial skills, we need good governance, we need good competencies, good financial expertise in every single project, be it profit or non-profit. I am wearing now I'm sure you've experienced that. I'm wearing now my investor hat because I really see that there is a lot of capital out there. There is capital that wants to be employed, but the people are very scared. Because remember, and I am now speaking to the enterprises, that when you're pitching for your idea, you're pitching your vision, you're pitching your values, you're pitching everything that can go well. The investor is thinking risk, risk, risk. How fast will it fail? Will it make it or not? So one of the things that is most difficult when you're going to go fundraising, and Massimiliano, I have to say that fundraising is tough for everybody. Even if you're Elon Musk, I think you're having a tough time fundraising. It is so much more difficult if you are a social enterprise, of course. So you have to learn the language of investor. You have to know what are the different tools and the different instruments available for all the companies out there, and try to pitch to those resources, not going straight to the venture capitalist because it's cool, because everybody is going to the VCs nowadays, but there are other things to do. So to go closer to the point of the question, which, as I said, is a very important one, we have always had equity, we've always had debt, and we've always had grants. These are the three pillars that are still there, and they're still very valuable for most companies. However, social enterprises at the very beginning profit from grants and from super patient capital. The super patient capital is the capital that is not in a rush to get out, to get a return after 5 years. It is the capital that can wait for the impact to actually be developed, sustained, achieved, and sustained. This capital is usually given by angel investors. Not all angel investors are the same. That's why I always encourage people who come to see me to study. Study the people you're going to see. Understand what moves them. Don't come to me pitching about a topic that is not of interest to me or to any of the other investors. But as you were saying, Massimiliano, strike that chord, because investors are moved from the heart, then they go through the mind and they look at the numbers and they decide with their gut. And this is how it goes. So if you can move investors, that is the first thing. Then you have to show them the capabilities of having the right numbers and being able to actually carry out an enterprise in a way that can achieve the impact that you want to achieve, and then you show durability. There are new and different ways of funding deserving enterprises. I'm sure most of you will have heard about blended finance. Blended finance is a relatively new concept. It has been around for a while. What do we mean when we say blend? We try to blend. We try to go, first we had philanthropy on one side, pure investment profit on the other, with a huge emptiness in the middle. Now we have a few bridges that link the two by stepping, like on stepping stones, on different ones. So venture philanthropy is one of them. So you may want to, as a social entrepreneur, you may want to go and speak with a venture philanthropist or a venture philanthropy organization, because they actually they donate money, but they follow the money. They ensure that there is accountability and help when help is needed. Then we have, as we were saying, the impact investing. We have blended finance. We've spoken a little bit about impact investing. I don't want to take all of the time, so we'll go straight into the blended finance. Blended finance blends the result with the impact. So for example, I have just subscribed a loan for an enterprise from Ticino, in fact. These are girls who needed some capital, not a lot, 40,000, and they did not want to give out equity, which I thought it was a great idea. Don't give out too much equity to people who you don't know. It's a little bit like your mother was saying, don't speak to strangers. Yeah, that's about it. But they really wanted to pay back the loan because it kept them accountable. So what I suggested is to do an impact-linked loan, whereby they have a series of goals that they need to achieve every 3 months. Every time they achieve a goal, the interest goes down. If they achieve all the goals, the loan is forgiven. So that is one way of doing it. It is a huge pain in the you-know-what to actually make it go through a board of directors or to have it accountable. You need to have somebody doing impact measurement, as we were saying, but there are new and different ways. Do not underestimate crowdfunding. Crowdfunding for social enterprises can be very powerful and can be a way to actually engage and be marketed while fundraising. So that's another way to do that. So at the end of the day, I'm afraid I don't have one answer that works for everything. Every enterprise needs a different funding strategy, but what I do encourage all of the entrepreneurs is be informed of where you are, where you want to go, what are the options out there, and endeavor to educate your listeners, whoever they may be, institutions or individuals. That's my 5 cents.
Thank you. A few more thoughts, or maybe we...
If I may?
Yeah.
Yeah, so very nice to have like an overview of the landscape of funding opportunities, but to the point. So when I was running Swissleg, we had investors that were local. They were transplanted here, but it was a group of Swedish investors. And what I liked about their approach was that they were impatient for profit. But when I say that, not in a bad way, they were impatient for us to find a business model that actually worked. So they were very patient for growth, and so they didn't worry about us growing so much, but they were impatient for us finding processes that actually worked and resulted into profit. The profit margins might have been small, and I thought that that was very much aligned with what Clayton Christensen, late professor from Harvard Business School, would say, this theory of good money and bad money that you were talking about. So that was good money.
That was good money.
That was good money because it forced us to think, well, what's the real good business model here? And how do we find that mechanism that help us be durable?
Yes. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you for this contribution. Very interesting. Okay, I would like to continue our discussion by observing that social entrepreneurs certainly aspire to create social value by addressing various social and environmental problems existing in the societies. This aspiration, however, is not separate from achieving financial sustainability, as we said, and economic independence. A social business must generate revenues at some point through its innovative business model in order to survive. The traditional conceptualization, however, associates social enterprise largely with the notion, as we said, of philanthropy or non-profit venture, and the duality of this identity has remained a big problem for social enterprise, and in fact there are different business models. For example, some social enterprise reinvest 100% of their dividends into the social or environmental mission they have. This is Muhammad Yunus' model. Some reinvest a percentage of the dividends into the social or environmental missions, and others are purely for profit, even though their mission is to tackle a social or environmental problem. Luciana, could you share with us the business model of Made in Carcere and tell us if the duality of a social mission and the achievement of financial sustainability was a challenge for you in the beginning? Did you encounter resistance from people, and how did you go about overcoming this resistance? And of course, as always, after Luciana, please feel free to add further thoughts.
So I am this is my second life, because before I was a chief of innovation channel in bank. I made the first virtual bank in Italy, and now I'm ex-colleague, and now I decided to change my life to demonstrate that the elegance can go in prison in bad situation, in situation of imagination and difficult for change the life of people. I should like in this situation to speak that it's possible to change profit and no profit. World of business and before business now is wealth, benessere. And we can demonstrate in 70 years that this is possible. I work in a prison 17 years, and people that work, female prisoners, use waste products and change her life, change her situation, not only for the prisoners, but I should like to change life or vision to anche also students, manager, entrepreneur, people that usually work in the world of profit, because because it's important to change the vision. Now all speak social entrepreneur, social, come si chiamano? I greenwashing, greenwashing, people that important company that would speak on green or SG or CSR, but I like that you say before passion, vision of people that is important to change the world. I was a chief of innovative technical innovative channel, bank, luxury, facilities, but now I decided to change my life to, come si dice, al servizio degli altri? Al servizio degli altri, parlo un po' in italiano così facciamo prima.
microfono di Samantha.
Oh, grazie. In carcere si parla poco in inglese, sono 17 anni che sono con un... che non sono... che non... che non... che non sono più... Grazie. Sono 17 anni che non sono più nella gabbia dorata, nel mondo della finanza, quindi ho capito che essere al servizio degli altri fa bene a tutti, perché lavorare in carcere con prodotti, con tessuti di scarto, queste pantofole per esempio sono bellissime perché sono colorate, noi lavoriamo attraverso la bellezza e l'eleganza, dimostriamo che anche in questi luoghi di degrado possano entrare delle bellezze, delle situazioni di crescita per le persone che non hanno mai avuto questa opportunità. Paradossalmente chi lavora in carcere non torna più in carcere, quindi dal punto di vista finanziario ed economico il paese, la comunità risparmia circa 60.000 euro l'anno per ogni detenuto. Ne sono passate centinaia, centinaia e centinaia dalla nostra esperienza e quindi abbiamo avuto un abbattimento dei costi sia in termini di salute che in termini, perché la sanità costa, e sia in termini di recidiva, le persone non tornano più. Quindi sembrerebbe un ossimoro parlare di impresa e parlare di sociale. Impresa sociale spesso nel carcere è quasi impossibile, però questi progetti che sembrano ibridi, la forza sta nell'equilibrio del raggiungimento della bellezza dei prodotti affinché possano generare non profitto ma benessere e riuscire a pagare lo stipendio a queste persone che sono in stato di detenzione, perché attraverso lo stipendio, attraverso quindi una indipendenza economica, riescono a offrire ai familiari e soprattutto ai figli, perché il 90% sono tutte donne, riescono ad offrire un esempio di dignità e la costruzione di una nuova identità nei confronti dei figli che vanno a scuola, che comprano i libri, vanno all'università. Noi abbiamo figli di persone in stato di detenzione che grazie allo stipendio che loro percepiscono riescono a mantenere i figli fuori. Questo è un esempio di costruire dei valori sotto traccia attraverso un lavoro ufficiale che è quello di creare gadget personalizzati, perché è quello che noi facciamo. Quindi vendere dei prodotti belli fa bene a tutti, a noi che li compriamo perché sono belli, abbattono la recidiva in carcere e costruiscono una identità, una nuova identità a persone che altrimenti non l'avrebbero più fatto. Noi infatti proprio 2 giorni fa abbiamo presentato a Roma il primo evento di indicatori di benessere, perché noi vogliamo parlare di BIL, benessere interno lordo, che offre un indicatore tangibile di tutto quello che si crea. Quindi noi, voglio dire, grazie per l'eventuale condivisione di percorso. Quindi noi speriamo di aver dimostrato, perché tantissime realtà da 17 anni a questa parte hanno replicato il nostro progetto, quindi noi siamo felici che tutti ci copino, perché è la replicabilità del modello, di un modello che non è solo di economia circolare, perché recuperiamo i materiali che altrimenti andrebbero ad inquinare il pianeta, ma anche perché riusciamo a dimostrare che bellezza e dignità ed eleganza possano entrare in questi luoghi. Quindi per me il benessere interno lordo dovrebbe essere un nuovo parametro, un nuovo indicatore, non più profitto, non più prodotto interno lordo, quindi dal PIL passiamo al BIL. Speriamo di farcela.
Grazie Luciana per la passione. Thank you for the passion, for the sentimento. Yeah, it was very nice. So yes, I think after Luciana we can, after what she said, we can just go to another question. And to bring another theme on this roundtable discussion, we know that one of the main challenges involving most social businesses is that they often lack the ability to scale up. Perhaps the word ability is incorrect, and we should say that they lack the support and the infrastructure to scale up. Most of the time, a social enterprise starts with immense enthusiasm, as Luciana transmitted to us, to address a specific problem, but then the lack of support and structured policies affect the social enterprise to reach economies of scale and move to the next level. A common strategy for scaling is to add staff and grow the organization. This adds significant cost and effort and often allows for modest scaling. However, some social enterprises feel they have no choice, as they feel a need to integrate vertical or horizontal functions such as distribution and financing to make up for institutional gaps. But there are alternative ways for scaling a social business, and I'd like to ask Paulo to share his thoughts and expertise on this, both as a social entrepreneur and as an academic, since, Paulo, you are both. In your opinion, what are some of the best takeaways for social entrepreneurs who want to grow their impact?
Thank you. And before I start, I must say that I'm honored to be the only man here in this panel. So appreciate. So let's go back to the question. Scaling is hard, right? So let's start with that. And I don't claim to have the answer, neither as an entrepreneur or as an academic. I think that we have ideas of what works and what doesn't work so well. So I think that one of the biggest challenges for social enterprises is oftentimes this lack of focus, and because they engage in this hybrid duality. You know, from one side there is the pressure to make money, and don't get me wrong. I mean, if we think about social enterprises that actually work well, if you make money, you can reinvest, right? I used to say all the time to my partners at Swiss Leg, and they came from the development world, and so there was this pressure to become an NGO, and so there was this dichotomy. So I think that all social enterprises face something like that. There's the pressure to make money, and that is important. Oftentimes is neglected or seen as a bad thing. But there's also the pressure to have impact, to deliver something of impact. And oftentimes they are trying to cater to both sides, and they end up losing focus. Now, when they focus too much on the social side, maybe they need to do the measurement, right? So they have all of the mechanisms that are funding that. They are interested in impact, right, of different types. They have a number of different metrics, and you have to deliver those, the quantification. But if you're trying to build money, to get money, well, then oftentimes people in the organization feel betrayed, right? They said, oh, we started with a passion, but now it's like you are really just focusing on the money, and we lose control, and it's what the VC wants, and so on. So I feel that oftentimes this lack of focus, which is common with hybrid organizations, puts social enterprises in a difficult place to begin with. Now, having said that, and when I teach social entrepreneurship and social innovation, we go over a number of cases of actual social enterprises that have struggled with this in the past, and try to tinker in terms of how to deal with this. what works, right? So, I mean, I've seen extremely successful social enterprises that partner. They partner well. They are very focused in terms of what is their distinctive capability, because yes, we need to add capacity, what is non-core, but you may have to verticalize and develop a number of capabilities, but you can't, right? So not with small margins, not with a social vision, but oftentimes you are offering something that is specific, and big organizations value that. And so I think that a huge successful strategy is to understand exactly what is the distinctive, you know, the unique value proposition, right? And deliver on it with focus and precision. Now, the moment that the organization can do that, it is also the due diligence to find the partner organization that has scale, that can bring that dream to fruition. And it might be Meta, or it might be, you know, Alphabet, or it might be, I don't know, Nestle, but really, you know, stick with that goal. I find that oftentimes I don't see a lot of that, but the many organizations that I see that are very successful, they partner. So I don't know if it's only the only mechanism. I'd like to think in my next social enterprise I will do that and really try to find the capability. Let me just perhaps tell a little vignette. I had a good friend visiting for the weekend, and he is basically, is passionate about waste. And he's doing that in the energy sector. Now, they are the perhaps most successful, he is, you know, in the team of the most successful startup in the Netherlands that are doing carbon capturing and carbon. And so they have hundreds of millions in his Series A. He was telling me about projects that went from tens of millions to hundreds of millions. Now, this is someone that has a vast experience in his life in the energy sector, right? Started at Shell, went to I don't know, to different places in the Middle East, and then in Russia, and so on. So very traditional background, and then realized, okay, I really want to remove waste. And he partnered with all of the capabilities, right? So people that had innovation capability, that engineering capability, investment, and they have an amazing team. But now, these are people that, you know, they're not trying to build it on their own. They're really partnering also for skills to understand how to build a team that can deliver on the dream. I think it's, I mean, we have talked about having a passion, having ambition to dream good, but what I really liked, and I think maybe I will emphasize with what I said before, is this razor-sharp focus. He says, his organization, is about reducing waste. And they just go with that wherever it may lead, right? And they bring in the capability to deliver on that. So let me stop there.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you very much.
I would like to add something. Thank you. Thank you for bringing the issue of focus here today. I call it the squirrel syndrome. Squirrels, those little animals, they cannot keep their attention for more than 2 seconds. Everything looks super interesting and they follow everything. Many entrepreneurs do that. So they go and speak with a potential partner or maybe with an investor, and they hear some good idea, so they say, hey, I want to do that. And they start doing that and they lose focus. So that is an amazing piece of advice, and thank you for bringing it up. Don't be squirrels.
All right, thank you very much. Very interesting. In principle, we have the possibility of some questions, and maybe we will just take one since we are going a little bit late on our program. Then, of course, we can ask questions to here our panelists during the standing dinner afterwards. So if there is any question in the audience, we will take it one. Otherwise, we will have...
There's one question over there.
So I will come close to you because I will give you a little bit close my microphone. That's how we have to do today because we...
I see.
Let's see
So,
if I can.
I have a question to Paulo. We understand that social businesses may not remunerate capital because they invest everything in the business. But they produce something which is remunerating the community, which are positive externalities. Is there, and we saw it very clearly with the example of Luciana, is there a way to transform those positive externalities in a payment medium, in money? Because in fact, that is less cost for the community or for the government involved or the public authority. Thank you.
So thank you for the question. I think it's extremely relevant. Perhaps, Angelica, you might...
start.
Okay, I'll start. But I think that there is a financing, the financing mechanisms that are better prepared to deal with that, right? So these, I don't know, investment bonds that can deliver on results, right? I think that, first, this notion that social enterprises might actually fix the gap that is not fixed by government, that's it's nice to think about that, but I don't think it's realistic. Actually, I think it's posed to think that social businesses can, in fact, fulfill that gap. I think that they may show the way, and government can pick up, first understanding what are the possibilities, then putting its perhaps structure and governance and size to deliver the impact. Now, how can we translate that? I would say that once you recognize the benefit associated with, made in Carcere, for example, right? There are positive network externalities. It's a reinforcing mechanism. It generates savings for the community, not to mention all of the other benefits, right? So not only financial, but all of the benefits for the people involved, that this has value. How do we translate? So I definitely think that there should be financial mechanisms in place to translate that and reward these organizations. And then, once you have understood the potential, put a process in place so that you can scale it up, right? Not put the burden of solving the solution on entrepreneurs that are passionate and are wonderful people, but learn from them and then replicate, right, in scale.
For example, for my project, it's important to including other people, other community. And we work in south of Italy, in Puglia, where there isn't money, never. And I work in 5 prisons, but not only, because I work with, I made the hub for waste textile, and I resend to other 20 situations in Italy to give the textile button, no, come si chiamano bottoni? Buttons, fili, I stamp etiquette, logo, brand, because I want to replicate my model. It's simple, it's a good sense, only good sense. I take waste products and I sew with the people di basso profilo, nel senso emarginati. Marginal women that with this project give money for independence, cioè acquistano autonomia attraverso piccoli progetti, e questo è un progetto che viene replicato in tutta Italia, e adesso dopo 17 anni tutti usano prodotti di riciclo con persone emarginate. È un bellissimo modello che dimostra che non ci vogliono solo i soldi, ma ci vuole anche la tenacia, perché a noi di vendere le borse quasi non ce ne frega nulla, non è importante cambiare l'identità delle persone, generare comunità con tanti stakeholders, che sono gli studenti, gli imprenditori, passano tantissimi dalla nostra esperienza. Non è semplice. Io comincio in inglese, poi finisco in italiano. È troppo faticoso riprendere l'inglese.
Thank you very much. All right, so I thank you very much to all our panelists. Now we will have a little short 5-minute break before our pitching session, which will start. So see you really in a moment. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.